Thank you. And if I could invite up John Murphy, Design Director for BBC Sport. Round of applause for John, please. And James Ransome as well, Senior Business Development Manager for Sport and Live Events. So yes, as Heather said, over the next 14 or so minutes, we're going to discuss the evolving use of technology in football coverage, and particularly look at the FA Cup final. So, John, question for you to start off with. When you see an event as big and as prestigious as the FA Cup final on the horizon, what's your creative thought process and what are you going through to get to the big day?
Well, firstly, thanks for inviting me to talk on this. So the creative process it's firstly, what can we do? Obviously, we have, up to now, we've had a sharing with ITV, and obviously that alternates with the final, the control of the cameras and everything else. So last year, it was our control of the cameras. So the thought was, what can we actually do to enhance that kind of visual storytelling? We know that the presentation is going to be in the stadium, and then what can we do with the graphics to just, the FA Cup final it's not the Super Bowl, but it's the UK's Super Bowl, if you like. And over time, we know that the build-up on screen has dwindled a little bit, but what can we do in that time that we have to just really kind of punch the FA Cup final for the kind of the UK audience, really? And that's pretty much what it was. We've been doing we've done Spidercam things in the past, but I think it was always a scenario of it felt hard work to kind of get what we got out of it, and this process, doing it this year, was more the fact that we have less time to set up, but the process of being able to do this was quicker, so that's why we gave it a go, essentially.
Nice. And James, a similar question for you. So, from the Ross perspective, when you're presented with a showpiece occasion like the FA Cup final, where do you kind of start when you support clients like John and others around the world?
So with Ross Video being a live production, a technology manufacturer, we tend to help in quite a few different areas. So you might find things like our servers, our routers, our mixers in the trucks. And in this instance, obviously our camera motion systems team with our cable camera system Spidercam. That's one area where we're providing sort of aerial views that you can't really get with traditional cameras. We've got a creative services team called Rocket Surgery. Now, Rocket Surgery build custom content, graphics, but also custom control solutions and workflow for a variety of applications. In particular, live events for broadcast, and then also in venue itself. So we do a lot of projects, work with football clubs, NFL clubs, rugby clubs all over, and they're deploying solutions to help those venues actually engage fans in attendance as well. So they've got a lot of experience in that creative area. And then when it comes to something like this, obviously it involved a lot of close collaboration with John and the BBC creative team. So our Rocket Surgery team, the creative division, and also our UK rental partner for Spidercam, who was providing the operation. And then, of course, our PIERO team that provides the analysis that you guys are probably seeing as well. They really had to understand what you were trying to achieve, because, as you said, it's not the NFL. It's our Super Bowl, if you will. But what we've got all of this technology at our disposal, but we need to make sure that whatever we offered to help with, it blended seamlessly into the production and, provided the best experience for the fans at home.
Yeah, and just to add to that, just on the creative as well, is that one of the things that, obviously working with Rocket Surgery, who I think they're American-based, that's right, isn't it?
So they're all over the world, but a lot of their work is very much in North America.
So it kind of a little bit brought a bit of that sort of Super Bowl to it. I mean, our brand, in terms of the BBC Sport brand, is very kind of, it's digital focus, so it's kind of very flat.
Sure.
So to actually use a Spidercam in the stadium, you've got to really kind of extenuate that 3D to get the camera moves to work really well. So actually we kind of broke guidelines a little bit to kind of just bring that NFL element a little bit to it. So that's why it worked really well.
Breaking the rules at the oldest club football tournament in the world. Nice. And I will just say, I think there's been a slight problem with the way that this is being displayed, because if the render ended up being this, we wouldn't be sat on a stage talking about this right now, right? So, so James, if you want to take us through a little bit more about the specifics. So we've heard Spidercam being used and some motion graphics, etc., Ross's motion graphics systems, etc. Could you just take us through a little bit more of how that came to be and the flow, the workflow?
Definitely. So obviously we have Spidercam, which is the cable camera system flying above. What we did is we took the 3D tracking data from Spidercam into a tool called Lucid that we have. And Lucid's essentially the control platform for all of our virtual solutions, whether that's virtual studio or providing augmented reality graphics. And obviously that data is really precise because of all of the team on site doing that calibration beforehand. So then that feeds it into Voyager, which is essentially our engine that we use to augment the graphics on top of those visuals. But my favorite part of it, and a really cool part of it, is that we've actually got, we have a plugin called PIERO, plugin license from a software called PIERO. Now PIERO is a sports analysis tool that I imagine a lot of people here are familiar with. And having that plugin meant that we can take the real-time data from the game itself and visualize those stats. So yeah, that's sort of really an overview of the technical solution.
John, from your perspective, the technology, obviously a lot there. What was it like working with the technology? And I guess a follow-on question as well is what it's like working with the kind of expertise of that rocket surgery creative team.
Yeah, I think that's the benefit of this really. As I say, we have played with the kind of the Spidercam AR in the past. We didn't really do it for a few years, and I think more the fact that you have less time now to set up at stadiums with the OBs, and everything felt quite hard work and time consuming, and taking time off directors to actually look at their programs. Just looking at graphics is not what you want now. Obviously, this was presented to us in a way that we thought, actually, this, from a not just obviously give us that kind of visual effect and look great, it's also the fact that we can do it in the time frames that we think are achievable. And as far as I was aware, and nothing else told me otherwise, that everyone was kind of really happy on site in terms of, director was Sarah Williams, and she was very happy with the operation. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of the reason it went so well.
Yeah, and in terms of a reaction to the broadcast and stuff like that, I guess you get sort of verbatim feedback, and it does look very, very nice, even though the result didn't go the way of our hosts today. Was there any verbatim feedback?
I mean, internally, feedback was really good. I think positive. I think if you're using Spidercam with graphics in this situation in stadiums, I think the really important thing is that you try and get the graphics on when you've kind of got the stadium as full as it can be pre-game. I think when it's sitting in an empty stadium, it doesn't have that same effect. Obviously, usual things, you don't kind of get social media in reaction, and all of that was really positive. I think it's that thing, isn't it? It's showing that we're trying to deliver some innovation and visual creativity around the FA Cup final, which is only a good thing. Yeah.
I do have a slightly curveball question that we didn't have written down, if you don't mind, gentlemen, which is, if you look at this, and there's a lot of influence here around gamification. There's a little bit that I'm seeing here. Was that a conscious choice to kind of add elements of that and to increase the kind of younger audience, or is that?
That's a really good point. I think so. We've been working kind of with the gaming engine side of things for both virtual studios and for augmented reality for many years now. And although it didn't start off with potentially that in mind, there's no doubt that it can enhance that. If you're in environments and you're producing graphics that effectively are coming from the gaming world, it does obviously kind of have that interaction with younger audiences. What they see on screen or through digital, it kind of resonates with what they're seeing on a daily basis. gaming.
Absolutely.
So, and I don't know whether it's still going to be a question, but I was going to say that's one of the things that I think we need to probably even progress even further, is how we elaborate that.
That's actually my follow-up question, which is, what would you like to see, if not from football or rugby or one of the more traditional sports, from other media? What would you like to see brought into broadcasting? That's a question for you both. So James, I'll come to you in a moment, but John, you first.
Yeah, I'd like to see kind of probably the visualization of analysis, kind of in-game, pre-match, and actually making it feel more kind of, again, gaming engine, bringing that kind of, FIFA game into the kind of the broadcast even more through analysis, because obviously, the kids at home playing the games, they've got access to all of that. They're controlling it, and I think just being at the end of the day, people are there to watch the game. You can't take over that. But I think for the younger audiences to be able to kind of visualize kind of analysis as such in a more kind of gaming engine way, either in-game, what I'd say, or pre-match would be my viewpoint.
Thanks. And James, for you?
I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you, to be fair. I think the football is the most important part. We're there and everyone's at home or in attendance to watch the game. So whatever we do can't detract from that. But there are some things that you see in other sports which are really good. If you've watched the recent Six Nations, not to talk about rugby at a football event, but obviously you've got the documentaries on Netflix, and a lot of the coverage, you've got tons of behind-the-scenes action. And as a massive football fan who grew up wanting to be a player and then realised that wasn't going to happen for me either, you want to be as close to the action as possible. So I think new alternate camera systems, immersive angles, that kind of thing, I think more of that's going to be beneficial to me, but also attracting other fans. And also interactivity with the fans as well. So I've seen it in cricket, but often they'll poll fans at home, what did you think of this decision or whatever. And we've got in football those horrible nail-biting VAR moments now when you're sat there going, was it a goal, was it offside, what's going on? And I think you could bring the audience at home into it by just asking that simple question and visualising that on screen. I think that's pretty simple. So I'd like to see that a bit more.
There's still time for that football career. Still time for that football
I don't
career,
think
James.
so.
And in terms of that evolution, is it mainly the visual analysis and those kind of things, or are there other elements to it? I mean, we've just had, excellent spokespeople talking about sustainability and diversity and those kind of elements as well. There's obviously those core things that need to evolve.
Yeah.
From your perspective, the next 5 years, so we're sat here in that would be 2030, right?
Wow.
Check's watch. How have things evolved?
Sounds a bit boring, but I'm just going to say, as I say, I come from a visual side of it and how things look. And the technology is great, and across all these things, whether it's, XR, VR, AR, but there's still that kind of, can we just make it easier? I think it's still probably selling some of these things to production, and people see visuals and it's great and everything else, but when you kind of get down to it's like, how long do these things take to deliver? Is it gonna detract from our jobs of actually when we're directing programs? So it's just about it's about the evolvement, I suppose, of the technology in order to enhance the visual. Is that just how can we make those processes quicker and simpler and therefore more cost efficient?
Absolutely. And James, for you?
I'll go back to your question earlier about a generation raised on gamification and so forth, and I feel that I do think that as broadcasters try and attract younger fans, they need to give them the experience that they are getting elsewhere. And I think if you see any kind of esports event and you see the crazy visuals and everything that goes on there, obviously again we can't detract from the game, but I expect to see that technology becoming more and more prominent.
Perfect. I'd like to take a moment to thank you, John and James, and thank you all for being here. And that's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.